Ladies and gentlemen, I wanted to do an overview of the debate between Brianna Joy Gray and Krystal and Kyle. They did a debate talking about vote blue no matter who, so strategies for the left, for progress. So should you be going the third party route, putting pressure on the Democrats to deliver more, or should you be voting blue no matter who because the risk of getting another Trump presidency or someone like him is far too great, and also the concept of Joe Biden is inadequate. I think everyone in the debate agrees with that. None of them, even though it's hard, it would be challenging for you to get that assessment based on Kyle over and over again saying how he exceeded his expectations. But even saying that over and over again, if you have a good faith analysis of Kyle, like everyone else in the debate, is not happy with what Joe Biden is doing in terms of that's the best way to word it, but let's just put it this way. Kyle definitely presented that he would like Joe Biden to do a lot more than what he's doing, and Joe Biden is definitely not doing enough. But Kyle's position is just that the alternative, right? You have Joe Biden that's not doing enough but doing some things and more than expected, versus Trump or somebody like Trump taking us backwards and hurting the movement. And he says basically he would rather have some good quality crumbs than to starve, perhaps, right? So my general assessment of the debates, a couple of comments on it. I want to do a full response. Somebody requested that already. I want to do it. It's such a long video. It's tough, but I think I'm going to take out the key points. But regardless, I wanted to put something out there to share some of my thoughts, but this is more a high-level view of just like what I observed. I guess we'll start with Kyle and Krystal. Krystal and Kyle, their performance in the debate was very interesting. I mean, number one, there was an element, somewhat of an undertone of a ganging up on, not necessarily aggressively so, but it's a 2 versus 1. There's something to that, right? I mean, you have Kyle and Krystal who were generally on the same page, representing one position, and then you have Brianna Joy Gray by herself. I mean, Brianna Joy Gray is a pretty smart woman, I would say, but her one brain versus 2 brains. So there's some level of that. I don't think it was overly aggressive, where like taking advantage of, like bang, 2 of them just like bang, 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 knocking her out. But there was some level of that. What I did more recognize that I do want to comment on though is the dynamic between Krystal and Kyle. Kyle seemed to be very emotional or lacking in self-control, where Krystal seemed to be much more reserved and controlled. So, I would see many times Kyle would be talking to Brianna, and he's like, oh, Brianna, what are you doing? Did Joe Biden, he did more than I expected. He did more than I expected. But Joe Biden did much more. But he did much more than I expected. But much more than I expected. Much more. And meanwhile, Krystal is just there. But Brianna, don't you think that? I mean, she was like, more controlled. And Kyle was just, I don't know, he seemed like a little bit of a hothead, shall we say. So that was an interesting dynamic that I saw. I know people were in the comment section talking about, Krystal. They've done this before. Krystal is like his mother or something like that. So anyway, your mileage may vary, but I just thought it was interesting, the dynamic of, the control, especially defying the stereotypical, right? A lot of people would expect. So I think another thing that I recognize in the debate is Krystal and Kyle, I think, adequately represented. I make many complaints about the American left being very weak, and I think they were good representations of that. They were good sort of mascots of the weak American left and why they have no power. Their thought process was not of fighters, right? Their thought process was of people that you can disregard, that you can continue giving crumbs and play games with for a very long time. That's what I saw. Because, for example, they talk about, most of the time, the strategy, in my view, has been essentially vote blue no matter who, right? And then I think Kyle or Krystal mentioned that the alternative was tried at least once before, and it didn't work, and it was a failure. That is a weak man's argument. That is like, I have this big goal, right? Big goal. I wanna work for, Facebook or something. That's just a random thing I can think of that's like challenging. I want to get into Harvard or something, whatever it is, some big goal like that. A small percentage of people will be successful at what I'm trying to do, and I make an attempt, and it's an absolute failure, right? Now, I've been on a certain path for a very long time, and that path has no way led me towards working at Facebook, right? And then I try something different. I try maybe to start networking, right? I start trying to meet people, and I end up meeting someone from Facebook, and then they get me a job interview, whatever, and I just don't get the job, right? And then in the future, when I talk about networking, I think networking is a trick. Someone's like, why would you do networking? There was that time where you used networking, and it was a complete failure. Especially when the thing that you mostly do is the thing that they're suggesting that you do, right? You're on a path that's been resulting in, hardly any gains towards your goal. You try something different, it doesn't work. So since it doesn't work, then you just give up and go back to what you were doing before. Listen, man. So there was something about a third party. Somebody tried to do a third party move, and it ended up like the left having less respect. Listen, the big difference between my perspective and the typical American left is I'm a fighter, right? And that's not just me politically. That's how I've been with my life, my career. I've fought, which means I've taken a lot of bullets. I've lost. I've failed at many things. But I push, and I keep pushing, and I keep pushing until I succeed. And that's what I don't see with the Democrats. That's what I don't see with the American left, right? I see a very, very soft, spineless, social media, tribal, let's just follow along what my group is saying. I don't see the American left as really being fighters, right? You try the third party thing, it doesn't succeed, right? Either you try something else, or you try it again, recognize why did it fail, right? What went wrong with the third party approach? Okay, let's adjust and try again, right? And you keep trying and trying until you succeed. And that path to success, and it's the same thing that I've done in my life with my career and my objectives in life, you're constantly adjusting with new information based on the outcome of your actions. So you could be trying a certain path, and you keep running into failure, and then you adjust that path, and you adjust that path, and you adjust that path. And sometimes you get to the point where you abandon that path. You establish that this path is not going to lead me to where I want to go, right? But you don't do that until you really, really, have really given it your best, right? And I don't see a lot of this process of growth, right? I see the same thing with the Democratic Party. Ironically, Democratic Party behaving a lot like the people who vote for them, right? I don't see this constant growth where you do something, you recognize issues with it, you adjust those issues, you recognize issues, you adjust, and you keep getting better and better and better and better and better until you perfected it, right? I just see doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results, trying something different, and then it failed, and I go, okay, well, that doesn't work, so let's just give up. Like, what? So that was my fundamental disagreement with Krystal and Kyle. They had a very, very cliche, weak American left perspective. Not saying that they didn't have any good points. They certainly did have some good points. It was a good debate. It's not like they were useless in the conversation. I was all, Brianna Joy Gray! No. It was a good debate, and there was some good points that they made, but the main flaw I saw with their side is weak, right? And we have some serious obstacles in this country, major corruption issues, money in politics, propaganda everywhere, right? There's no way you're going to achieve much without a real fight. And that's not what Kyle and Krystal were talking about. They were talking about incrementalism, get along to go along, just very, very talking about a lot of what they can't do as opposed to what they can do, right? The other comment that I had was Brianna Joy. So I'm definitely biased in her favor, not just because of this debate, but in general. I tend to agree with her on a lot of things. She's making some strong arguments for third party and breaking the corporate duopoly. And I like the position of, when do you get off this path that you're on, where it's just like this ratcheting back and forth, and then it's default moving towards the right. And it's just vote blue no matter who, vote blue no matter, like, when do you get off this track that you're on, right? A very good point she brought up. The issues I had with her, however, is in her inability to acknowledge anything positive about Joe Biden. And she made a reference to patting him on the back. You don't got to pat him on the back. But I'm not patting Joe Biden on the back by saying that, there were some things, there's more than a few good things that came out of the Joe Biden presidency. I'm not patting him on the back, right? Because again, you can recognize the good things that he did, but on the same token, you can also have the position of, I'm not impressed, right? That's not the same thing as a good boy. Look, you did nice effort. Good Joe. You tried really hard and you did your best. You don't gotta take that approach, man. You can recognize and say, yes, he's much better than Trump, and he did do more than a few things that were good. You can acknowledge that and say, not impressed, not enough, not close to enough. Could have done much more. I demand much more, and I'm going to fight to have him do much more. Right? But she didn't take that approach. Her approach is, I'm not going to acknowledge anything good about Joe Biden. I don't care if he did anything good. She made a position of like, he could have been 100 times better than Trump, and I'm still not voting for Joe Biden. I think it's problematic. She's a very good debater. She's very smart. She's an attorney, so she knows how to make arguments. I just don't see what the problem is with her acknowledging positives about Joe Biden, right? I would argue she, as an attorney and just being who she is, she'd be better qualified than me to acknowledge good things about Biden and still destroy him, right? It's not like, if she goes and says, oh, Biden did a great thing, she won't be able to still maintain her position like that. Oh, you said Biden did a great thing. That kills your whole argument. You fail. You lose this debate. No, man. She could put it out there and still be like, and so what? But she wouldn't even like the words come out of her mouth. She wouldn't even like the ability to say Joe Biden did some good things like that. Like saying that, like, So my thing is, why? Is she captured by her audience? Because that would definitely be, knowing that she has the skill to acknowledge Biden positive traits and still destroy him. I know she has that skill. So that can't be the reason why she doesn't want to say it, because she feels like she's going to lose the argument. Simply hearing Brianna Joy Gray say Trump did something good is all of a sudden the argument she's trying to make is like, it's done. No, I think she could still hold on to her argument very strong. So if that's not the reason, what's the other reason? The valid reason I could see is audience capture. It would not be good from a business perspective to have Brianna Joy Gray saying that Biden is much better than Trump, or that he did a bunch of good things. That's not good for her brand. It's not good for the type of people that would be attracted to her. It's not good for the people that she either has direct connection to or a loose connection to. She's in a business, in a media business, and part of media business is partnerships and collaborations. You don't want to isolate yourself like me. Like the way I'm doing things is definitely the way you don't want to do it like me if you're doing this as a business. So there's going to be people who she probably fundamentally disagrees with on many things or most things, but for certain strategic reasons, it's best that she leave them alone and not get too aggressive, just because of the kind of people that like her might like that person, blah blah blah. So I wonder if that was the issue, because I don't see why it's such a big deal. And it's not even like she challenged it and says like, no, Joe Biden did nothing good, or we got nothing from it. No, she wasn't even saying that. She it's just that she refused to actually acknowledge he did something. Like, that was the whole issue, right? Because if she disagreed that Joe Biden did something good, that's different. She'd be like, well, those things are useless because of blah blah blah, or he didn't actually do this thing. No, there was no challenge to that Joe Biden did good things. The whole thing was, I, Brianna Joy Gray, cannot and will not acknowledge anything good about Joe Biden. Question is why. We know why a lot of her audience and audiences wouldn't be able to, right? These are tribalists caught in their bubbles, and you can't ever concede that someone on the other side did something good. Understood, but this is Brianna Joy Gray. These are the thought leaders, right? She's very smart, very intelligent. I would not put her on the same level as her audience, right? Otherwise, why is the audience listening to her in the first place, right? Obviously, they think that she has valuable insight that's got them thinking, and I didn't think about that, or that's an interesting perspective, right? So she would necessarily have a better understanding of the things that she's talking about to her audience. So why is she unable to say these things? I'll leave that for you to decide. That's my general comments on the debate. I'm going to dive into some more specific things, do like more of a response video. I'll probably focus on the moments that I think are the most significant. But this is just an overall commentary on the debate. I guess the final comment is, and I guess is another critique for Brianna, is that I think, although she was more on the fighter perspective, I think even her perspective was not nearly enough in terms of aggression. For example, she seemed to make a point of, the Libertarian Party fighting for ranked choice voting, and that's helpful. But I don't think she made a strong case of fighting for ranked choice voting and making it happen. Like, I think I was able to figure out that's what she was saying, but I don't know if a lot of the audience would have picked up on that particular point about, Kyle is talking about, yeah, if we had ranked choice, that would be great, but we don't have it. And I didn't really get a good strong rebuttal from Brianna in terms of, well, we have to fight to make it happen. Like, we need to put all of our energy. Like, if we don't fight for it, we're never gonna have ranked choice point. Like, you're sitting there saying if we had it, but then you're not doing anything, or you're not being aggressive about making it happen, making it a reality. So you're just sort of setting yourself up for just permanent failure in terms of just incrementalism and crumbs forever. Because like Brianna pointed out, like, when do you break this sort of path that you're on? I mean, this has been decades going on. What's the light at the end of the tunnel? And there was no strong argument coming from Krystal Kyle on that note. And I think Brianna I don't think she made a strong enough case for, you know, the level of fight that's required to get those wins. I mean, she was saying the right things, but I think the main thing that's missing, this is one of my key critiques for the left, they're weak, right? The American left, spineless, right? The way that they abandoned Build Back Better is a prime example. They had a key moment in time in history. Stakes were extremely high. And I think I saw a few dozen people going out there and protesting. They were all like sitting online, you know, back and forth, you know, with social media influencers and, you know, dumb left, blah, blah, blah. Like what was that about? All the Medicare for all stuff. And then when Build Back Better comes, all these, you know, Tinkle and all these clowns that were like, you know, oh, we're gonna fight for this. Where were they? Nowhere to be found. And then even the progressives, Majority Report, whatever. Where's the fight? This was all just content. Who was talking about we need to hit the streets, we need to do boycotts, we need to like really fight hard for this Build Back Better? It has a lot of stuff that's really important for us. And the path that we're heading on right now, it could be a decade before we have another opportunity like this. Where was the realization of that? Where was the fight? The biggest fight that I saw come from the left, it took 9 minutes on somebody's neck. That visceral image to get that emotional response. But then, of course, it gets co-opted and captured by capitalists and opportunists. It's not the way, guys. This is the Baby Channel. The Baby comment section below. Click on the like button, subscribe, smash that bell. Be well.